"Why didn't you tell us you were having a birthday dinner?" my mother asked, her voice dripping with false concern. I stood in my parents' living room in Boise, Idaho, holding a box of leftover cake from the small celebration I'd had with two coworkers. My sister Bailey sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone, not even bothering to look up. "I did tell you," I said, keeping my voice steady. "3 weeks ago and again last week. I texted you the day before." My mother waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, honey, you know how busy we've been with Bailey's promotion party planning. Speaking of which, we need to finalize the catering menu. Bailey, did you decide on the shrimp appetizers or the crab cakes?" That was it. That was the entire acknowledgement of my 28th birthday. 5 years in a row now they'd forgotten. Not forgotten, actually. That would have been easier to swallow. They just didn't care enough to remember. My name is Caitlin, and I'm 28 years old. I work as a medical billing specialist at a large healthcare network, and I've been living alone in a modest apartment for the past 6 years. My sister Bailey is 25, works in marketing at a tech startup, and has always been the golden child. Everything she does deserves celebration. Everything I do barely registers as existing. I placed the cake box on the kitchen counter. Inside was a small chocolate cake with "Happy Birthday, Caitlin" written in purple icing. I'd bought it myself from the grocery store bakery because no one else was going to. "Actually, I can't stay," I said. "I just wanted to drop this off since I couldn't finish it." "That's sweet, dear," my mother said, already turning back to Bailey. "Now, about the guest list for your party. Should we invite the Thompsons? They have that lovely son who just moved back from Portland." I left without another word. Nobody noticed. The drive back to my apartment took 20 minutes, and I spent every second of it replaying the interaction. 5 years. 5 consecutive years of having my birthday treated like an inconvenient footnote, while Bailey got elaborate parties for every minor achievement. When she got her driver's license at 16, they threw a party. When she graduated college, they rented out a restaurant. When she got her first apartment, they bought her all new furniture and threw a housewarming party that I helped set up. When I graduated college, they took me to dinner at a chain restaurant. When I got my first apartment, they asked if I needed help moving but canceled at the last minute because Bailey had a date she needed advice for. When I got promoted to a senior billing specialist position 2 years ago, they said, "Congratulations," over text, and then asked if I could help pay for Bailey's new car. I did help pay for that car. Like an idiot. I sent them $2,000 because family is supposed to help family. Bailey never thanked me. She probably didn't even know I contributed. My apartment was dark when I got home. I flipped on the lights and looked around at the space I'd made mine. It wasn't much, but it was clean and organized. I had a decent couch I'd bought secondhand, a coffee table I'd refinished myself, and walls decorated with prints I'd collected over the years. Everything here I'd earned and bought with my own money. I sat down at my small kitchen table and opened my laptop. My bank account stared back at me from the screen, showing a balance that had grown steadily over the past 5 years, $48,000 in savings. I'd been putting away money religiously, living below my means, skipping vacations, new clothes, and fancy dinners. I'd been saving for a house down payment, waiting for the right time, the right place. But why was I waiting? For my family to finally notice me? For them to acknowledge that I existed as more than just Bailey's older, less interesting sister? My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Can you pick up the deposit check for Bailey's party venue tomorrow? We're swamped." I stared at that message for a long moment. Then I opened a real estate website and started searching for properties in coastal Oregon. Within an hour, I'd found it. A small beach house in Cannon Beach, 2 hours from Boise. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, recently renovated. Ocean views, available for immediate purchase. Asking price was $45,000. I bookmarked the listing and closed my laptop. Something was shifting inside me, a decision crystallizing that I'd been avoiding for years. I was tired of being invisible. I was tired of being taken for granted. I was tired of watching my family celebrate Bailey while treating me like an afterthought. This birthday was going to be different. Not in the way I'd always hoped, with them finally remembering and caring. Different in a way that would make them notice, whether they wanted to or not. The next morning, I called the real estate agent listed on the beach house property. Her name was Pamela, and she sounded surprised when I told her I wanted to make an offer that same day. Most people like to view the property first, she said. Can we schedule a viewing for this weekend? I asked. If it's what I want, I'll make an offer immediately. You sound very certain. I am. Saturday morning, I drove to Cannon Beach alone. I'd told my mother I couldn't pick up the deposit check because I had plans, and she'd responded with a passive-aggressive text about how I never made time for family. The irony wasn't lost on me. The drive took me along the coast, with glimpses of gray ocean between the trees. Cannon Beach was a small coastal town, quiet and weathered. The beach house sat on a small lot 3 blocks from the main beach access. It was cedar shingled with white trim, surrounded by beach grass that swayed in the constant wind. Pamela met me outside. She was in her 50s, with short gray hair and a practical manner that I appreciated. It's not fancy, she said as she unlocked the door, but it's solid. The previous owners took good care of it. The interior was simple. Hardwood floors throughout, a small kitchen with updated appliances, a living room with large windows facing west toward the ocean. The bedroom was cozy, with built-in shelves and a view of the beach grass. The bathroom had a clawfoot tub that made me immediately picture long, quiet soaks with a book. I walked through each room slowly, imagining myself here, waking up to the sound of waves, drinking coffee on the small front porch, having a place that was entirely mine, where nobody could take me for granted because nobody would be invited unless I specifically chose to include them. I'll give you some time to think about it, Pamela said, but I shook my head. I don't need time. I want to make an offer. Full asking price. Cash. Her eyebrows rose. Cash? You have financing already arranged? No financing needed. I have the money. We spent the next 2 hours in a coffee shop going over paperwork. Pamela kept giving me looks that I couldn't quite read, somewhere between respect and concern. Can I ask you something personal? She finally said, as we waited for her office to prepare the initial documents. Sure. Are you running from something or running toward something? I thought about that. Both, maybe. Does it matter? Not legally, no, but in my experience, buying property out of anger or spite usually doesn't end well. This isn't anger, I said, and I meant it. This is clarity. The offer was accepted within 24 hours. The sellers were motivated, and a cash offer with no contingencies made the decision easy. Closing was scheduled for 3 weeks out, right after my actual birthday. During those 3 weeks, I said nothing to my family. I went to work, came home, and spent my evenings researching everything I needed to know about owning a beach house. I learned about winterizing pipes, maintaining cedar shingles in salt air, and the best places to buy fresh seafood in Cannon Beach. My mother called twice during that period, once to ask if I could help set up for Bailey's promotion party, and once to ask if I could contribute to the cost of the party since it was running over budget. I made excuses both times. She sounded annoyed but not concerned. She didn't ask how I was doing. She didn't mention my birthday, which was now less than a week away. Bailey's promotion party happened on a Saturday. I'd been invited, obviously, but I'd told them I couldn't make it. My mother's response had been icy. I hope whatever you're doing is more important than supporting your sister. I didn't respond to that text. Instead, I spent that Saturday at the beach house, doing a final walkthrough before closing. The sellers had left it clean and empty, ready for its new owner. I stood in the middle of the living room, looking out at the gray ocean through the windows, and felt something I hadn't felt in years: peace. My birthday fell on a Wednesday. I took the day off work, drove to Cannon Beach, and officially closed on the beach house. Pamela handed me the keys with a smile. "Happy birthday," she said. "I saw the date on your paperwork." "Thank you." I held the keys in my palm, feeling their weight. "I hope this place brings you everything you're looking for." I spent the rest of that day at the beach house, sitting on the front porch with a bottle of wine and a plastic cup. I'd brought a few things with me: a beach chair, a blanket, some basic groceries. As the sun started to set, I took out my phone and snapped a photo. Me sitting in the chair with the beach house visible behind me, raising the cup of wine toward the camera. The ocean was a gray-blue smudge in the background. I posted it to social media with a single caption: "Birthday present to myself, family not invited." Then I turned off my phone and watched the sunset alone. I didn't turn my phone back on until the next morning. When I did, it practically exploded with notifications: 73 missed calls, over 100 text messages. My social media post had been shared by mutual friends, commented on by old acquaintances, and apparently had made its way to every member of my extended family. The first text from my mother had arrived 10 minutes after I posted the photo. "What is this about?" Then, 2 minutes later, "Caitlin, call me immediately," followed by, "Is this a joke? Where did you get the money for a house?" My father had texted, "Your mother is very upset. We need to talk about this." Bailey's messages were more direct. "Are you seriously trying to make drama on my month? I can't believe how selfish you are." There were messages from aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone suddenly very interested in what I was doing, where I'd gotten the money, and why I hadn't told anyone. The attention I'd never received for anything positive in my life was now being lavished on me for making one quiet, defiant statement. I made coffee in the beach house kitchen and sat at the small table, reading through the messages. My hands were shaking slightly, not from fear, but from the sheer intensity of vindication I felt. They noticed. Finally, they noticed. My mother called at 8 in the morning. I let it ring. She called again and again. On the fourth call, I answered. "Where have you been?" she demanded before I could say hello. "I've been calling you all night." "I was sleeping," I said calmly. "It was my birthday. I took the day off." "Your birthday was yesterday, and that's not the point. What is this about a beach house? Did you actually buy a house without telling us?" "Yes." Silence on the other end. Then, "How? Where did you get that kind of money?" "I saved it over 5 years." 5 years? You've been hiding money from us for 5 years? I almost laughed at that. "Hiding it? It's my money, Mom. I didn't realize I needed to report my savings to you." "Don't get smart with me. We're your family. You should have told us. We could have helped you find something better, closer to home. I like where it is, and I didn't want help." "This is ridiculous." Her voice was rising now, that familiar tone that used to make me want to shrink and apologize. "You bought a house out of spite to make some kind of statement." "I bought a house because I wanted one," I said. "The statement was just a bonus." That caption, "Family not invited." Do you know how that makes us look? How does it make you look? Like we're terrible parents? Like we don't care about you? I paused, letting that hang in the air. "And whose fault is that?" "Excuse me? You forgot my birthday, Mom. Again. For the 5th year in a row. I told you about my birthday plans. I texted you. I reminded you. And you blew me off because you were too busy planning another party for Bailey. We did not forget. We've been busy, and your birthday fell in the middle of all this party planning. We were going to take you to dinner this weekend. Were you? Or is that something you just decided right now? She sputtered. That is incredibly unfair. We love you just as much as we love Bailey. Then why don't you show it the same way? We do. You're being oversensitive. Just because we don't throw you elaborate parties doesn't mean we don't care. When was the last time you threw me any party? When was the last time you acknowledged one of my achievements without immediately pivoting to something about Bailey? When was the last time you called me just to see how I was doing? I call you all the time. You call me when you need something, to help with Bailey, to contribute money, to run errands. When was the last time you called just because you wanted to talk to me? Another silence. Longer this time. I'm not going to apologize for caring about both my daughters, she finally said, her voice cold. I'm not asking you to apologize for caring about Bailey. I'm asking you to acknowledge that you haven't been caring about me the same way. But you know what? It doesn't matter anymore. What do you mean it doesn't matter? I mean, I'm done waiting for you to notice me. I'm done hoping that maybe this time you'll remember my birthday or celebrate my accomplishments or just treat me like I matter. I bought that house for me. I'm building a life that doesn't revolve around waiting for scraps of attention from people who clearly don't want to give them. You are being absolutely ridiculous over one forgotten birthday. 5 birthdays, Mom. 5 years. And it's not just birthdays. It's everything. Oh. So now we're terrible parents because we focused more attention on Bailey. She needed more support. She was always more social, more ambitious. You were always so independent, so self-sufficient. We thought you preferred it that way. That excuse hit me like a slap. Self-sufficient, independent. All the words parents use to justify neglecting the child who doesn't demand as much attention. I was self-sufficient because I had to be, I said quietly. Because asking you for attention meant competing with Bailey, and I always lost that competition. That is not fair. Maybe not, but it's true. My mother's voice shifted then, becoming sweeter, almost pleading. Caitlin, honey, I think you're overreacting. Why don't you come home and we can talk about this like adults? We can all sit down together and work through whatever issues you think exist. I don't think they exist. I know they do. And no, I'm not coming home. I am home. This is my home now. You can't possibly mean to live in that beach house. You have a job here, a life here. I have a job I can do remotely if I want to. And my life is wherever I decide it is. What about Bailey's party next month? You promised you'd help. I had to stop myself from screaming. Even now, even in the middle of this conversation, she was bringing it back to Bailey. I didn't promise anything, I said. And I won't be at Bailey's party. I won't be at any more of Bailey's parties. You're her sister, and she's mine. Has she noticed I exist recently? Before my mother could respond, I heard another voice in the background. Bailey, demanding to know what was going on. My mother must have put me on speaker because suddenly Bailey's voice came through clearly. Is she seriously not coming to my party because of some attention-seeking tantrum? Bailey said. God, Caitlin, could you be more pathetic? Something inside me went very still and very calm. Hi, Bailey, I said. Happy belated birthday to you too. What? My birthday yesterday. The one nobody remembered again. Oh, please. We remembered. We were just busy. You're such a drama queen. You know what's funny? I can tell you every single birthday gift you've gotten from our parents for the past 5 years. The designer purse when you turned 20, The weekend trip to Seattle when you turned 21, the professional camera when you turned 22, the down payment on your car when you turned 23, the jewelry set last year. Can you tell me what I got for any of my birthdays? Silence. Exactly, I said. Because you don't know. Because you've never cared enough to notice. That's not my fault. Mom and Dad treat you differently. Maybe if you were more what? More like you? More demanding? More willing to make everything about myself? More appreciative? God, do you know how much Mom and Dad have done for you? And you just throw it in their faces by buying some house and posting that passive-aggressive caption. What have they done for me, Bailey? Specifically, tell me one thing they've done for me in the past 5 years that wasn't related to you or something they needed from me. More silence then, defensively. They let you live at home through college. So did most parents. What else? This is stupid. I'm not playing your victim game. It's not a game, it's my reality, and I'm done with it. I hung up before anyone could respond. My hands were shaking again, but I felt lighter than I had in years. I'd said it. All of it. Every resentful thought I'd swallowed for years had finally been spoken out loud. My phone started ringing again immediately. I turned it off and set it on the counter. Then I walked outside to the front porch, sat in my beach chair, and listened to the waves. The vindication I'd felt earlier was still there, but it was accompanied by something unexpected. Grief. I was grieving the family I'd always wanted but never had. The parents who would have cared equally about both daughters, the sister who would have noticed when I was hurting, the birthday celebrations I'd never gotten. But underneath the grief was something stronger. Relief. The knowledge that I'd finally stopped waiting for something that was never going to happen. I'd built my own life, made my own choices, and created my own celebration. And it felt better than any party they could have thrown me. I spent the next 3 days at the beach house, ignoring the constant notifications on my phone. I'd turned it back on once to check for work emergencies, saw another 100 messages from family members, and promptly turned it off again. The silence was intoxicating. On Friday morning, I drove back to Boise to pack up my apartment. I'd already contacted my landlord about breaking my lease early and was willing to pay the penalty. My job had a remote work policy that I'd never taken advantage of, and my boss had approved my request to work from home indefinitely without any fuss. I was a good employee who never caused problems, and they were happy to accommodate me. I was loading boxes into my car when my father showed up. He pulled into the parking lot and climbed out of his sedan slowly, looking tired and older than I remembered. We hadn't spoken since the phone call with my mother, and I wasn't sure what to expect. "Caitlin," he said, "can we talk?" "I'm kind of busy, Dad." "I can see that. Are you really moving to that beach house?" "Yes." He ran a hand over his face. "Your mother is devastated. She hasn't stopped crying since that phone call. I'm sorry she's upset." "Are you? Because it seems like you wanted to hurt her." I set down the box I was carrying and turned to face him fully. "I wanted her to notice me. There's a difference. She notices you. We both do." "Do you? When was my last birthday, Dad?" He blinked. "It was Wednesday, right? And what did you do for it?" "We were going to take you to dinner this weekend. Your mother already made reservations." I pulled out my phone, turned it on just long enough to show him the screen, then handed it to him. "Show me the reservation confirmation. Show me any text or email proving you made those plans before I posted that photo." He stared at the phone, his face reddening. "I don't need to prove anything to you." "Because you can't. Because you didn't make those plans until after I called you out." "That's not true. We love you, Caitlin. Everything we've done has been for both you girls. Everything you've done has been for Bailey. I've just been the supporting character in her story, The reliable older sister who helps out, contributes money, shows up when needed, and never complains about being overlooked. You're exaggerating. Am I? I helped pay for Bailey's car. Did you know that? Mom asked me for $2,000 and I gave it. Did Bailey ever thank me? Did you? His expression shifted, something like shame flickering across his face. I didn't know you contributed to that. Of course you didn't, because you didn't ask where the money came from. You just accepted it and moved on. Just like you've accepted everything I've done for this family without ever acknowledging it. We appreciate what you do. No, you expect it. There's a difference. Appreciation requires acknowledgement. Expectation is just taking someone for granted. My father looked at the boxes in my car, then back at me. What do you want from us, Caitlin? An apology? Fine. I'm sorry we forgot your birthday. I'm sorry we haven't been as attentive as you wanted. But you're an adult now. At some point, you need to stop keeping score and just accept that families aren't perfect. I'm not keeping score. I'm setting boundaries. And my boundary is that I'm done being invisible in this family. You're not invisible. You're being dramatic. Then name one thing I've told you about my life in the past 6 months. One interest, one goal, one problem I've mentioned. He opened his mouth, then closed it. I waited, but nothing came. I got a promotion 8 months ago, I said quietly. It came with a 15% raise and a new title. I told you and Mom at dinner. You said congratulations and then immediately started talking about Bailey's new apartment. I don't think you even heard what position I was promoted to. Senior billing specialist, he said quickly, and I could see him grasping for the memory, but his eyes told me he was just guessing based on what he knew about my job. Nice try. Senior revenue analyst, different department, different responsibilities. But you wouldn't know that because you never asked. Caitlin, I have 2 daughters. I can't remember every detail of both your lives. I'm not asking you to remember every detail. I'm asking you to remember anything. But you can tell me exactly what Bailey's new apartment looks like, what her promotion entailed, and what she's been posting on social media. Because you pay attention to her life, you just don't pay attention to mine. My father's shoulders slumped. What do you want me to say? Nothing. I don't want you to say anything. I wanted you to care enough to already know these things. But since you don't, I'm removing myself from the situation. You're punishing us. No, I'm protecting myself. There's a difference. He stood there for a long moment, looking lost. Then he said, Your mother wants you to come to dinner Sunday. The whole family. We can work this out. I'm not coming to dinner, Dad. I'm done with the dinners where I'm an afterthought. With the holidays where everything revolves around Bailey. With the constant requests for my time and money while giving nothing back. I'm done. You're our daughter. You can't just walk away from your family. Watch me. I loaded the last box into my car and got in the driver's seat. My father stood in the parking lot, looking smaller somehow as I pulled away. In my rearview mirror, I saw him get his phone out, probably calling my mother to report back. The drive to Cannon Beach felt different this time, lighter. Each mile I put between myself and Boise felt like shedding weight I'd been carrying for years. By the time I reached the beach house, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. I spent the weekend unpacking and making the beach house feel like home. I hung curtains I'd bought at a discount store, arranged my books on the bedroom shelves, and set up my small desk in the corner of the living room where I'd work remotely. It wasn't much, but it was mine. On Sunday evening, my phone rang. Not my mother or father this time, but my Aunt Pamela, my mother's older sister, someone I'd always liked but rarely saw. I answered hesitantly. Caitlin, honey, I saw your post, she said, And I just want you to know that I get it. You do? I do. Your mother and I grew up with a golden child dynamic too. I was you in that scenario. It took me years to set boundaries with our parents and even longer to repair my relationship with your mom. I'm not sure I want to repair anything right now. I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying I understand. And I wanted to tell you that I'm proud of you for that beach house. It takes guts to choose yourself. Her words made my throat tight. Thank you. Also, I wanted to warn you. Your mother is planning something. She called a family meeting for next weekend. She's inviting everyone. Aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents. She wants to have some kind of intervention about your behavior. Of course she does. I'm not going. I told her I think she's handling this all wrong, but I wanted you to know so you're not blindsided if people start reaching out. I appreciate that. And Pamela, if you need someone to talk to, someone who gets it, I'm here. No judgment, no taking sides. After we hung up, I sat on my porch and watched the waves. A family intervention. My mother was gathering the troops, preparing to paint me as the problem. The ungrateful daughter who'd abandoned her family over one forgotten birthday. Let them, I thought. Let them have their meeting and their opinions. I was 2 hours away, building a life that didn't require their approval. The first email arrived on Monday morning from my grandmother, my father's mother, with the subject line, "Very disappointed." Caitlin, I raised your father to value family above all else. I'm shocked and saddened by your recent behavior. Buying a house without telling anyone, posting that hurtful message, refusing to speak to your parents. This is not how we raised you to behave. Family problems should be worked out privately, not aired on social media for everyone to see. I expect you to apologize to your mother and make things right. Your grandfather and I didn't sacrifice everything for this family so you could throw tantrums and walk away. We will be at the family meeting next weekend, and I hope you'll have the maturity to attend. Love, Grandma. I deleted it without responding. Then came an email from Bailey's best friend, Amanda, someone who'd never said more than 2 words to me in the past. Hey, Caitlin, I just wanted to reach out because Bailey is really hurt by what you did. She's been crying for days and can't understand why you're being so cruel. I know families have drama, but posting that photo was really mean-spirited. Bailey has always looked up to you as her big sister, and now she feels like you hate her. Maybe you should think about how your actions affect other people before you do something so selfish. Just my 2 cents. I almost laughed at that one. Bailey had been crying for days. Bailey, who couldn't name a single one of my interests or remember my job title, was devastated that I'd set a boundary. More emails came throughout the week from cousins I barely knew, from family friends, from people who'd never bothered to acknowledge my birthday, but were suddenly very concerned about family unity. The common theme was clear. I was selfish, dramatic, and hurtful. I needed to apologize and make things right. Not one person asked if I was okay. Not one person questioned why I'd felt the need to make such a drastic statement. They'd all accepted my mother's version of events without question. On Wednesday, my mother left a voicemail. I didn't listen to it at first, but curiosity got the better of me that evening. Caitlin, this has gone on long enough. I've tried to be understanding, but you're tearing this family apart. Do you know how many people have called me asking what's wrong? How many people think we're terrible parents because of what you posted? Your grandmother is devastated. Your father is barely sleeping. Bailey can't focus on work because she's so upset. All because you decided to throw a tantrum over one forgotten birthday. I'm arranging a family meeting this Saturday at 2 hours in the afternoon. Everyone will be there. Your grandparents, your aunts and uncles, everyone who loves you and wants to help you see reason. I expect you to be there. We are your family, Caitlin. You don't just get to walk away from us because you're feeling sorry for yourself. Call me back and confirm you'll attend. We need to resolve this." I saved the voicemail, then sent a single text in response. "I won't be attending. Please stop contacting me." Her reply came within seconds. "If you don't come to this meeting, you're choosing to end your relationship with this entire family. Is that really what you want?" I stared at that message for a long time. The threat was clear. Show up and submit to their judgment, or be cut off completely. It was meant to scare me, to make me realize what I'd be losing. But as I sat there in my beach house, listening to the waves and feeling the peace I'd found in this small space, I realized something important. I'd already lost them. Or maybe I'd never really had them in the first place. I typed back, "If that's what you think will happen, then you've already made your choice. But I'm not the one ending anything. I'm the one who finally stopped pretending everything was fine." I blocked her number after that. Then I blocked my father, Bailey, and anyone else who'd been sending me messages trying to guilt me into apologizing. The silence that followed was deafening at first, but then it became peaceful. On Thursday, something unexpected happened. I received a message on social media from someone named Jessica. Her profile showed a woman around my age, smiling in front of a mountain backdrop. "Hi, Caitlin. I hope this message doesn't seem weird, but I saw your post about the beach house and your caption. I just wanted to say that I completely understand what you're going through. I went through something similar with my own family 3 years ago. They forgot my 29th birthday while throwing an elaborate party for my younger brother. And when I called them out on it, they made me feel like I was the problem for being too sensitive. It took me a long time to realize that I wasn't overreacting. I was just finally acknowledging a pattern that had been there my whole life. Setting boundaries with family is one of the hardest things to do, but also one of the most important. I don't know if you need to hear this, but you're not crazy. You're not selfish, and you're not wrong for choosing yourself. That beach house looks beautiful, by the way. I hope it brings you peace." I read that message 3 times, feeling tears prick my eyes. A complete stranger understood what my own family refused to acknowledge. I sent her a reply thanking her, and we ended up messaging back and forth for over an hour. She told me about her journey of setting boundaries, the family members who'd eventually come around, and the ones who never did. She told me it was okay to grieve the family I'd wanted while still protecting myself from the family I had. That conversation did more for me than any family meeting could have. Friday evening, my phone rang from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Caitlin, it's David, my mother's younger brother." I hadn't heard from him in over a year. "Hi, Uncle David. Look, I'm calling because your mom asked me to try talking some sense into you. She's really upset about this whole situation." "I'm sure she is. But I'm not calling to do that. I'm calling to tell you I'm not going to that family meeting." I sat up straighter. "You're not?" "No, because I've been watching this play out. And honestly, I think your mom is out of line." "Really? Really? Look, I love my sister, but she's always had this way of rewriting history to make herself the victim. And I've seen how she treats you versus how she treats Bailey. I've seen it for years and never said anything, and I'm sorry for that." "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because it was easier not to. Because calling out family dynamics is messy and uncomfortable. But your post made me realize that my silence was part of the problem. So I'm telling you now, you're not wrong. You're not being dramatic. And you deserve better than what you've been getting." I couldn't speak for a moment. Finally, I managed. "Thank you. You have no idea how much that means. I do have some advice, though. Don't expect the rest of the family to see it that way. At least, not right away. Your mom has already shaped the narrative, and most people are going to believe her version. They're going to think you're the problem. I know. But eventually, some of them will figure it out. It might take months or even years, but people who really care will come around. Until then, you just keep doing what you're doing. Take care of yourself first. After we hung up, I walked down to the beach. It was almost dark, the sky turning deep purple. The sand was cool under my bare feet, and the waves crashed rhythmically against the shore. I thought about everything that had happened in the past week and a half. The hurt, the anger, the confrontations, the unexpected support from strangers and distant family members. Saturday afternoon came, and I imagined my family gathering at my parents' house 2 hours away. I pictured them sitting in the living room, probably with coffee and pastries my mother had fussed over arranging. My grandmother would be in her usual chair, my grandfather beside her, aunts and uncles on the couch, cousins scattered around, all of them waiting for me to show up so they could stage their intervention. I was at the farmer's market in Cannon Beach instead, buying fresh vegetables and locally caught salmon. The vendor, an older man named Charles, had been friendly every time I'd stop by. Today, he asked if I was settling into the area okay. I am, I told him. Better than I expected, actually. Good to hear. We like having new folks who appreciate the quiet. It struck me then how simple that exchange was. No demands, no expectations, no hidden agendas, just a friendly conversation between two people. When was the last time I'd had that with my own family? My phone buzzed as I was walking back to my car. Another unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Caitlin, it's Aunt Pamela again. Hi, how are you? I'm fine, honey. I just wanted to call and tell you what happened at the meeting. You went? I did. I changed my mind last minute because I wanted to see exactly what your mother was planning. And honestly, it was worse than I expected. My stomach tightened. What happened? Your mother spent the first 20 minutes crying and telling everyone how you'd broken her heart, how she'd given you everything and you'd thrown it back in her face, how you'd bought that house just to hurt her and make her look bad. She painted this picture of you as this ungrateful, selfish daughter who was punishing the whole family over nothing. Of course she did. Then your grandmother started in about how disrespectful young people are these days, how nobody values family anymore. Your father just sat there looking miserable but not contradicting anything. Bailey played the hurt little sister perfectly, talking about how she'd always looked up to you and couldn't understand why you hated her now. I don't hate her. I know that. But that's the story they're telling. And most of the family bought it. They spent an hour discussing how to handle you, what consequences there should be for your behavior, whether they should cut you off financially. They don't give me money. I haven't taken anything from them in years. I pointed that out. I also pointed out that I couldn't remember the last time anyone acknowledged your birthday, and that maybe there was a reason you felt overlooked. Your mother did not appreciate that. What did she say? She said I was enabling your victim mentality, that you'd always been overly sensitive and dramatic, and that by supporting you, I was making things worse. Then your grandmother asked me to leave if I wasn't going to be constructive. Pamela, I'm so sorry. Don't apologize. I told them they should be ashamed of themselves for turning this into an intervention instead of looking at their own behavior. Then I left. But Caitlin, I wanted you to know what you're dealing with. They've decided you're the problem, and they're not going to examine their own actions. At least, not anytime soon. I appreciate you telling me. There's one more thing. After the meeting, your cousin Justin pulled me aside. He said he'd been thinking about how the family treats you, and he realized he's been part of the problem too. He wanted me to tell you he's sorry, and that he understands why you left. That surprised me. Justin was Bailey's age, and they'd always been close. Really? Really? So it's not everyone, Caitlin. There are people who see what's happening. We're just not the loudest voices right now. After Pamela hung up, I sat in my car in the parking lot and processed what she'd told me. My family had gathered to discuss me like I was a problem to be solved, rather than a person who'd been hurt. They'd decided I was wrong without ever considering that their own behavior might have contributed to my decision. And instead of reaching out to ask what had led to this breaking point, they demonized me for setting a boundary. I drove back to the beach house and spent the rest of the afternoon organizing my home office. As I worked, I thought about the family meeting and what it represented. They'd given me an ultimatum: submit to their judgment or lose them forever. But the truth was, I'd been losing them my whole life. This just made it official. Sunday morning, I woke up to an email from my father. The subject line was, "Final attempt. Caitlin, your absence from yesterday's family meeting spoke volumes. Your mother is heartbroken. Your sister is devastated, and your grandparents are extremely disappointed. We gave you every opportunity to make this right, and you chose not to take it. Effective immediately, we will be removing you from the family trust, the family cell phone plan, and any shared accounts. Your mother has asked me to tell you that you are no longer welcome at family gatherings until you apologize and make amends. This is not what any of us wanted, but you've left us no choice. We love you, but we cannot continue to enable your selfish behavior. If you change your mind and decide to act like a mature adult, you know how to reach us. Until then, we need space from you. Dad." I read it twice, waiting for the pain to hit, the grief, the panic, the desperate need to fix things. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt something closer to relief. I wasn't on the family trust because they'd never put me on it in the first place. That was only for Bailey. I'd been paying for my own phone for 3 years, and the only shared account I had with them was an old streaming service login that I never used. They were cutting me off from things I'd never had or no longer needed. I typed out a response. "I accept your decision. I hope you all find peace with your choices as I've found peace with mine. Take care." Then I closed my laptop and went for a walk on the beach. The morning was gray and foggy, the kind of weather that would have depressed me in my old life. But now it felt appropriate, cleansing somehow. The fog obscured everything more than 20 feet away, creating a sense of isolation that should have been lonely but instead felt safe. When I got back to the house, I had a new email from Bailey this time. "Caitlin, I need you to know how much you've hurt me. I thought we were close. I thought you were someone I could count on. But you've shown your true colors by abandoning the family over something so stupid. Mom is devastated. Dad looks 10 years older. Grandma says she might not have much time left, and you're making her final years miserable, all because you wanted attention. Well, congratulations. You got it. I hope you're happy in your little beach house, living alone with no one who loves you because that's what you chose. You chose a house over your family, and when you realize how big of a mistake that was, don't come crawling back expecting us to welcome you with open arms. Some things can't be undone. I'm done with you." I stared at that email for a long time. The manipulation was so obvious it was almost funny. The guilt tripping, the emotional blackmail, the assumption that I was the one who'd ruined everything. Not one word acknowledging their role in any of this. Not one moment of self-reflection or empathy. I didn't respond. I saved the email in a folder I created called Evidence, along with all the other messages from the past 2 weeks. Then I made myself breakfast and sat on my porch, watching the fog slowly lift. My phone rang around noon. Another unknown number. This time I let it go to voicemail. When I checked it later, it was my grandmother. "Caitlin, This is your grandmother. I don't understand what's gotten into you, but this behavior is unacceptable. We raised you better than this. Your mother is beside herself with grief, and your grandfather's blood pressure has been through the roof worrying about this situation. We are too old to deal with this kind of drama. You need to put aside your pride and apologize to your mother immediately. Family is the most important thing in life, and you're throwing it away over nothing. Call me back so we can discuss this like reasonable people. I deleted the voicemail without responding. Then I blocked that number too. By Monday morning, I'd blocked 17 phone numbers and countless social media accounts. The messages kept coming from new angles. Distant relatives I'd never met, family friends, even some of Bailey's friends who thought they were helping. All of them saying the same things in different words. I was wrong. I was selfish. I needed to apologize. But there was also another set of messages. Smaller, quieter, but more meaningful. Justin sent me a direct message apologizing for never speaking up when he'd seen the favoritism. Aunt Pamela sent me photos of beach houses she thought I'd appreciate, along with encouraging notes. Jessica, the stranger who'd first reached out, checked in to see how I was holding up. And there was one more. An email from someone named Chloe with the subject line, "Thank you." "Hi, Caitlin. You don't know me, but I saw your beach house post get shared by a mutual friend. I just wanted to thank you for having the courage to do what I've been too scared to do for years. My family has a similar dynamic with me and my younger brother, and seeing your post made me realize I don't have to keep accepting treatment that hurts me just because they're family. I'm starting to save money for my own beach house, metaphorically speaking, and your courage helped me take that first step. So, thank you." I read Chloe's email 3 times, feeling something shift inside me. My choice to set boundaries hadn't just affected me, it had given someone else permission to do the same. Maybe that was worth more than my family's approval had ever been. 3 months passed, and I settled into a rhythm that felt more authentic than anything I'd experienced in years. I worked from my beach house office, taking breaks to walk along the shore or grab coffee at the local cafe. The people in Cannon Beach were friendly but respectful of boundaries. They didn't pry into why a 28-year-old woman had moved to their small town alone, and I appreciated that more than they could know. My social media had become a different kind of space. Instead of posting to maintain appearances or stay connected with people who didn't really care, I shared genuine moments from my new life. Photos of sunsets over the ocean, my growing collection of sea glass, the cozy reading nook I'd created in the corner of my living room. Each post was simple, unfiltered, and entirely for myself. The comments were interesting. Old acquaintances I'd barely known started engaging more than my family ever had. People said things like, "This looks so peaceful," "You seem really happy," and "I'm inspired by your courage to start over." But there was also a noticeable absence. No comments from Bailey, my parents, or most of my extended family. They'd made their choice, and I'd made mine. In early December, I posted a photo of my Christmas tree. It was small and slightly crooked, decorated with ornaments I'd bought at an estate sale and strung with lights that cast a warm glow across my living room. The caption read, "First Christmas in my own home. First time I'm excited about the holidays in years." Within an hour, I received a message from my mother. She hadn't been blocked on social media. I'd decided that cutting off all contact would give her ammunition to claim I'd shut everyone out. Instead, I'd simply stopped responding to her messages, letting her see my life continue without her. "Caitlin, I see you're not coming home for Christmas. I want you to know that we'll have a place set for you at dinner if you change your mind. Bailey is bringing her new boyfriend, and it would mean a lot to the family if you were there. It's been 3 months. Don't you think it's time to move past this?" I stared at that message, analyzing every word. Not an apology, not an acknowledgement of what had happened, just an expectation that enough time had passed and I should be ready to pretend everything was fine. And the detail about Bailey's new boyfriend. Of course that was included. Another milestone in Bailey's life that I was expected to show up and celebrate. I didn't respond. Instead, I posted another photo the next day. Me at the local holiday market, holding a cup of mulled cider and smiling genuinely. The caption, "Building New Traditions." That night, Bailey called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "What do you want?" I asked when I picked up. "Wow, hello to you too," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "I'm calling because Mom asked me to try talking to you. She's really hurt that you're refusing to come home for Christmas." "I'm not refusing to come home. I am home." "You know what I mean. To our parents' house for the family gathering. I wasn't actually invited. Mom just said there would be a place set. That's not an invitation. That's a passive-aggressive way of making me look bad when I don't show up." God, you always have to make everything so complicated. Can't you just come to Christmas dinner and be normal for once? Define normal. You know, act like part of the family. Stop being so dramatic about everything. Bailey, in the 3 months since I left, have you once asked me how I'm doing? Have you once acknowledged that maybe the way I was treated contributed to my decision? Oh, here we go again with the victim thing. You're not the only person in this family who exists, Caitlin. You're right. I'm not. But I'm the only person who's been consistently treated like I don't matter. That is such... You matter. You've always mattered. You're just mad that Mom and Dad don't worship the ground you walk on like you think they should. I never wanted worship. I wanted basic acknowledgement. But you wouldn't understand that because you've never gone without it. Whatever. I'm not going to beg you to come to Christmas, but I want you to know that you're ruining it for everyone. Mom cries every time someone asks if you're coming. Dad barely speaks at dinner anymore. Grandma and Grandpa keep asking what they did wrong. You're tearing this family apart. And for what? A stupid beach house. The beach house isn't the point, Bailey. It never was. Then what is the point? What do you want from us? Nothing. I don't want anything from you anymore. That's the whole point. She was quiet for a moment then. You know what? Fine. Don't come to Christmas. We'll have a better time without you anyway. At least we won't have to walk on eggshells worrying about offending you. You've never worried about offending me before. Why start now? She hung up without responding. I sat on my couch, petting the cat I'd adopted 2 weeks earlier, a scraggly orange tabby named Admiral who'd been at the shelter for 6 months because he was too independent. He purred in my lap, completely content, asking for nothing but occasional food and the freedom to come and go as he pleased. We understood each other perfectly. My phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Pamela. "I heard Bailey called you. Don't let her get in your head. You're doing great." I smiled and sent back a heart emoji. Pamela had become an unexpected ally, checking in regularly and offering support without trying to fix the situation or push me to reconcile. She'd even driven out to visit me once, spending a weekend walking the beach and talking about her own experience setting boundaries with family. Christmas came, and I spent it exactly how I wanted. I woke up late, made myself a fancy breakfast, and spent the afternoon reading by the fireplace. In the evening, I video called with Jessica, the stranger who'd first reached out after my original post. We'd become genuine friends over the past 3 months, bonding over our similar experiences with family dynamics. She lived in Montana and was planning her own escape from a toxic family situation. "How are you holding up?" she asked, her face filling my laptop screen. "Surprisingly well. I thought I'd feel sad or lonely today, but mostly I just feel peaceful. That's because you're not performing anymore. You're not pretending to be happy in a situation that makes you miserable. Exactly. My family wanted me to come back and act like nothing happened, play the role of dutiful daughter and sister, smile through dinner, and never mention that they've spent years making me feel invisible. And instead, you chose yourself. That's not selfish. That's survival. We talked for over an hour, and when we hung up, I felt more supported than I'd ever felt at a family gathering. I posted one photo that day. My cat curled up on the couch with the Christmas tree lights glowing in the background. Caption: Merry Christmas from our quiet little corner of the world. Admiral and I are exactly where we want to be. The comments were overwhelmingly positive. Friends I'd lost touch with reached out, saying they were proud of me. People I barely knew sent messages of support. Notably absent were any comments from my immediate family, but I did receive an email from my father on December 26th. Subject line: Disappointed. Caitlin, your absence yesterday was noted and deeply felt. Your grandmother cried through most of dinner. Your mother barely ate. Bailey's boyfriend asked why you weren't there, and we had to explain that you've decided you're too good for this family. I hope you're happy with your choices, but I want you to know that you've broken your mother's heart. She may never recover from this. Think about that while you're enjoying your beach house. I saved the email in my evidence folder but didn't respond. The guilt trip was obvious. My grandmother's tears, my mother's broken heart. All my fault for not subjecting myself to their dysfunction. But I was learning to recognize manipulation when I saw it, and I refused to let it work anymore. January brought an unexpected development. I was at the grocery store in Cannon Beach when I ran into a woman I vaguely recognized from Boise. Her name was Deborah, and she'd been friends with my mother years ago. "Caitlin," she said, her cart stopping next to mine in the produce section. "I thought that was you. What are you doing all the way out here?" "I live here now," I said, bracing myself for judgment. "Really? Good for you. I heard about what happened with your family. Your mother called me a few months ago. Very upset." "I'm sure she was." "She told me her version of things, but honestly..." Deborah lowered her voice conspiratorially. "I always thought she was too hard on you. The way she talked about Bailey versus how she talked about you, it was noticeable. I never said anything because it wasn't my place. But I'm glad you got out of that situation." I blinked, surprised. "Really? Really? Your mother has a way of making herself the victim in every story, but those of us who've known her a long time can see through it. Don't let her guilt trips get to you. You did the right thing." We talked for a few more minutes, and Deborah gave me her number in case I ever needed anything. As I drove home, I realized something important. Not everyone believed my mother's version of events. Some people had been watching the family dynamics for years and had drawn their own conclusions. That evening, I received a message from Justin, my cousin. We'd been in sporadic contact since he'd apologized through Aunt Pamela. "Hey, Caitlin, I wanted to give you a heads up about something. Your mom has been calling different family members, trying to get them to convince you to come back. She's telling people you're having some kind of mental breakdown and need an intervention. Just wanted you to know in case anyone reaches out. Thanks for the warning." What are people saying? Mixed reactions. Some people believe her, but others are starting to ask questions. Like, why you'd have a breakdown that resulted in you buying a house, getting a cat, and seeming genuinely happy in all your posts. It doesn't add up because it's not true. I know. And more people are figuring that out. Uncle David told Grandma that he thinks Mom is the problem, not you. Grandma didn't take it well, but at least someone said it out loud. Over the next few weeks, I noticed a shift in the family dynamics, at least from what I could observe through social media and occasional updates from Pamela and Justin. My mother's narrative was starting to crack. People were noticing that I seemed happy and healthy, not broken and desperate. They were noticing that my mother's stories about me kept changing. First I was ungrateful, then I was having a breakdown, then I was being manipulated by bad influences. In February, I received an unexpected visitor. I was working on my laptop when someone knocked on my door. I opened it to find Bailey standing on my porch, looking uncomfortable and out of place in her designer coat and impractical boots. "Can I come in?" she asked. I stood in the doorway for a moment, debating. Then I stepped aside. "Fine." She walked in and looked around, taking in the cozy space I'd created, the bookshelves, the comfortable furniture, the artwork I'd hung. Admiral watched her suspiciously from his perch on the back of the couch. "Nice place," she said, though her tone suggested she didn't mean it. "What do you want, Bailey?" She sat down without being invited, crossing her legs and looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Mom sent me." "Of course she did. She's worried about you. We all are." "You're not worried about me. You're annoyed that I'm not playing my role anymore." "What role?" "The supportive older sister who shows up when needed and fades into the background the rest of the time. The one who contributes money and time but never asks for recognition. The one who makes you all look good without requiring any effort in return." Bailey's jaw tightened. "That's not fair." "Isn't it? When was the last time you asked about my life? When was the last time you remembered something I told you about my job, my interests, my goals? I know you work in medical billing. Revenue analysis. I haven't worked in billing for 2 years, but you wouldn't know that because you've never asked." She looked away, uncomfortable. "Okay, fine. Maybe I haven't been as attentive as I should have been, but that doesn't mean you get to cut us all off." "I didn't cut anyone off. I set boundaries. There's a difference. Boundaries that exclude your entire family from your life. Boundaries that protect me from being taken for granted. If you can't see the difference, that's part of the problem." Bailey stood up abruptly. "I didn't come here to argue with you." "Then why did you come?" "Mom wanted me to tell you something. She's planning to come see you next week. She wants to talk this out face to face, whether you want to or not." "She's not welcome here." "She's coming anyway, and she's bringing Dad and Grandma. They're going to make you listen to reason. There's nothing to talk about. I've made my choice." "You don't get to just walk away from family, Caitlin. That's not how it works." "It's exactly how it works when family treats you like you don't matter. I'm done explaining this to people who refuse to understand." Bailey moved toward the door, then turned back. "You know what? You're right about one thing. I never paid much attention to your life. But that's because you never made it interesting. You were always just there. Quiet. Boring. Doing your little job and living your little life. Mom and Dad focused on me because I gave them something to be proud of. Maybe if you'd done something worth noticing, they would have noticed you." The words hung in the air between us, cruel and honest in a way Bailey had never been before. I could see she regretted them immediately, but it was too late to take them back. "Get out," I said quietly. "Caitlin, get out of my house and tell Mom not to bother coming next week. If she shows up, I'll call the police for trespassing." Bailey left without another word. I locked the door behind her and stood there shaking, not with hurt, but with anger. After all these months, after everything that had happened, she still didn't get it. She'd revealed exactly what they all thought, that I was boring, unworthy of attention, nothing special, and they'd decided that justified their treatment of me. I pulled out my phone and sent a group text to my mother, father, and Bailey. "If anyone from this family shows up at my house uninvited, I will call the police. I am not interested in conversations, interventions, or reconciliation. Leave me alone. My mother's response came within minutes. You can't stop us from visiting our daughter. We have a right to check on you. I forwarded that text to Aunt Pamela with a message. Do I need a lawyer? Her response. Possibly. Let me make some calls. The attempted visit never happened. Aunt Pamela contacted a lawyer friend who sent my parents a formal cease and desist letter, warning them that showing up at my property uninvited would constitute harassment. My mother was furious, leaving me multiple voicemails about how I'd gotten lawyers involved and was treating my own family like criminals. I saved every voicemail, every text, every email. My evidence folder had grown considerably, documenting 3 months of manipulation, guilt trips, and threats. I didn't know if I'd ever need it, but having it gave me peace of mind. In March, something shifted. I posted a photo of myself at a local art show, smiling next to a painting I'd bought from a local artist. The caption was simple: supporting local artists and feeling grateful for this community that's welcomed me. The comments were mostly positive, but one stood out, from my grandmother. You look happy, dear. I'm glad you found peace, even if it's away from us. I'm sorry we made you feel like you had to leave to find it. I stared at that comment for 10 minutes, reading it over and over. It wasn't a full apology, and it didn't erase years of favoritism and neglect, but it was an acknowledgement, a crack in the united front my family had presented. I sent her a private message. Thank you, Grandma. That means more than you know. She responded, Your mother won't like that I wrote that, but I'm too old to keep pretending I don't see what's been happening. You deserved better from all of us. Over the next few weeks, more cracks appeared. Uncle David posted a supportive comment on one of my photos. Justin started openly defending me when family members made snide comments. Even some of Bailey's friends reached out privately, admitting they'd been following my journey and were inspired by my courage to set boundaries. My mother, seeing her narrative crumble, made one final desperate attempt. She posted a long Facebook status about the pain of having an estranged child, painting herself as a heartbroken mother who'd done everything right but still lost her daughter. She talked about unconditional love, about family bonds that couldn't be broken, about how she'd always be there when I finally came to my senses. The responses were mixed. Some people offered sympathy and support, but others, people who'd been watching this play out for months, called her out. Maybe ask yourself why your daughter felt the need to leave, one person wrote. I've seen Caitlin's posts, and she seems genuinely happy. That doesn't happen when someone is running from a good situation, another added. My mother deleted the post within 24 hours. In April, on what would have been my 29th birthday, I posted a photo of myself on the beach, sunset, holding a glass of champagne. The caption read, 29 years old today. First birthday in 6 years that I actually celebrated. First birthday that felt like mine. Here's to choosing peace over performance, authenticity over approval, and self-respect over family dysfunction. Best decision I ever made. The post got hundreds of likes and comments. People shared their own stories of setting boundaries with toxic family members. They talked about the guilt, the grief, and ultimately the freedom that came from choosing themselves. But the most meaningful message came from Jessica. I did it. I moved out. I got my own place and told my family I needed space. Your courage gave me courage. Thank you for showing me it was possible. I cried reading that message, not from sadness, but from the realization that my choice to set boundaries had rippled out beyond my own life. I'd given someone else permission to do the same. My mother sent one final email on my birthday. Subject line, please. Caitlin, it's your birthday and you're not here. Do you know how wrong that feels? How empty the house is without you? I know we've made mistakes. I know we didn't always see things the way you saw them. But please, can we try again? Can we sit down and talk? Really talk, without lawyers or anger or hurt feelings. I miss my daughter. We all miss you. Please come home. I read it 3 times, looking for real accountability, real acknowledgement of the specific ways they'd hurt me, but it wasn't there. Just vague references to mistakes and not seeing things the same way, without naming what those mistakes were or acknowledging the pattern of neglect and favoritism. I wrote back, "Mom, I appreciate that you miss me, but missing me isn't the same as understanding why I left. Until you can specifically acknowledge the ways you treated me differently than Bailey, until you can recognize the pattern of forgetting my birthdays while celebrating every minor milestone of hers, until you can admit that you took me for granted for years, we don't have anything to talk about. I'm not coming back to a situation where I'm expected to pretend everything is fine. I deserve better than that. I finally believe I deserve better than that. That's what this year has taught me." She didn't respond. Summer came, bringing warm, sunny days and a steady stream of tourists to Cannon Beach. I'd made friends with other locals, the woman who ran the bookstore, the couple who owned the coffee shop, a group of artists who met weekly to paint by the ocean. These people knew me as Caitlin, the woman who'd moved to town and was building a quiet life by the sea. They didn't know about my family drama, and I didn't tell them. It wasn't relevant to who I was becoming. In August, I received a wedding invitation from Justin. He was getting married in September, and he'd addressed it to me specifically with a handwritten note. "I know this might be awkward given the family situation, but I really want you there. You're important to me, and I'm not letting Mom's drama dictate who gets to celebrate with me. No pressure, but I hope you'll come." I RSVP'd. Yes, knowing it would be the first time I'd seen most of my family since I'd left. Part of me dreaded it, but another part felt ready. I'd spent almost a year building a life that didn't require their approval. I could handle one wedding. The wedding was outdoors in a vineyard outside Boise. I arrived alone, wearing a dress I'd bought specifically for the occasion, something that made me feel confident and beautiful. As I walked toward the ceremony area, I saw heads turn. My mother's face went white. Bailey's expression was unreadable. But Justin lit up when he saw me and immediately came over to hug me. "You came," he said, genuine happiness in his voice. "Of course I came. I wouldn't miss it." The ceremony was beautiful, and during the reception, something interesting happened. People approached me, cousins, aunts, uncles, family friends. They asked about my life in Cannon Beach, complimented me on how happy I looked, and several admitted they'd been following my social media and were inspired by my journey. My mother kept her distance, watching from across the room with a pinched expression. Bailey ignored me entirely. My father looked like he wanted to approach, but couldn't figure out how. It was my grandmother who finally broke the ice. She came over during dinner, moving slowly with her cane, and sat down next to me. "You look well, Caitlin," she said. "Thank you, Grandma. So do you." I meant what I wrote in that comment. I'm sorry we failed you. I'm sorry I went along with your mother's version of events instead of listening to yours. I appreciate that. Your grandfather wants to apologize too, but he's stubborn and doesn't know how. He's been talking about you a lot lately, asking questions about your life, wondering if you're truly happy or just pretending to be. I'm truly happy. I can see that. It's in your eyes. You used to look diminished somehow, like you were always trying to take up less space. Now you look like you fit in your own skin. We talked for a while longer, and when she left, I felt something loosen in my chest. Not forgiveness exactly, but maybe the beginning of it. At least with her. The evening wound down, and as I was getting ready to leave, my father approached. "Caitlin," he said awkwardly, "can we talk?" We walked outside to the vineyard's garden, away from the noise of the reception. "You look good," he said finally. "Thanks." "Your mother, she's not ready to admit she was wrong. Maybe she never will be. But I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about how we treated you versus how we treated Bailey. And I think you were right." I waited, not making it easy for him. "I can't give you back those years," he continued. "I can't undo the birthdays we missed or the achievements we overlooked. But I want you to know that I see it now. I see what we did. And I'm sorry." "Do you?" I asked. "Or are you just sorry that I left?" He flinched. "Both, maybe. Is that honest enough? It's a start. Can we try to have some kind of relationship, even if it's different from before?" "Maybe. But it has to be on my terms. No guilt trips about missing family events. No pressure to reconcile with Mom if she's not willing to do the work. No expecting me to go back to being invisible." "I understand. And Dad, if you ever forget my birthday again, we're done permanently." He nodded, his eyes wet. "I'll put it in my calendar with reminders. Multiple reminders." We hugged briefly and awkwardly, and then I left the wedding. As I drove back to Cannon Beach, windows down and music playing, I felt something I hadn't expected. Hope. Not hope that my whole family would suddenly change, but hope that maybe I could have selective relationships with the ones who were willing to put in the effort. 6 months later, I was sitting on my porch, watching the winter waves, when my phone rang. It was my father, calling to wish me happy birthday a day early. "Just in case," he said. He forgot on the actual day, though he promised he wouldn't. We talked for 20 minutes about my life, my work, the book I was reading. He asked questions and actually listened to the answers. My mother never apologized. She maintained her version of events, telling people I'd overreacted and abandoned the family over nothing. But her voice got quieter over time as more people stopped believing her narrative. Bailey and I existed in a state of mutual distance, not hostile, but not close. We exchanged occasional polite messages, but neither of us pushed for more. My grandmother called every few weeks, and we developed a relationship that felt honest in a way it never had before. Justin and I stayed close, and Aunt Pamela became one of my best friends. Uncle David visited Cannon Beach twice, both times bringing his wife and kids for weekend beach trips. The family I'd been born into had fractured, but in the breaking, I'd found the people who actually cared about me as a person rather than as a role to fill. And I'd built a chosen family in Cannon Beach, friends who knew my worth without me having to prove it, who celebrated my successes without comparing them to anyone else's, who remembered my birthday without reminders. As for the beach house that had started everything, it remained my sanctuary, my proof that choosing myself hadn't been selfish, it had been survival. Every morning I woke up to the sound of waves, and every morning I was grateful for the courage it had taken to post that one simple photo with that one simple caption: "Birthday present to myself. Family not invited." My family's dysfunction had cost them a daughter, but their rejection had given me something far more valuable: myself. Looking back on that journey now, I realized it had never really been about revenge, at all. It had been about reclaiming my voice, my worth, and my right to be seen. The beach house wasn't a weapon. It was a mirror, forcing my family to see exactly what they'd been doing for years. Some of them finally looked. Some of them never would. And I'd learned to be okay with both.